Welcome to today's video. How do I figure out my net worth? Figuring out your net worth helps you determine your financial health and helps you make progress. We're going to discuss how to calculate your net worth and why it's important for your financial well-being. Plus, I'm going to give you tips on how to increase your net worth. So let's dive right in. All right, I'm going to use my flip chart and we're going to talk about how to calculate your net worth, the actual formula, so that you can determine what your current net worth is, and then you can set a goal on where you want your net worth to be. And then make sure and stick around to the very end because I'm going to share the tips on how to increase your net worth. All right, so how do we calculate our net worth? We're going to take all of our assets, everything that we own, and then we're going to subtract out our liabilities, everything that we owe. And that is going to give us our net worth. And a lot of people get confused about this because they think they shouldn't be including their home value if they have a mortgage on it. But I'm going to show you some examples so we can see exactly what to include and what not to include. So the first thing that we can include is our home. We're going to put our home under our assets category. And we're going to take the value of our home. If we were to sell it today, how much could we sell it for? And then another thing we can put under our assets is our car. If we were to sell our car today, how much could we sell our car for? And if we have a rental property, we can put that on here. And if we own really expensive jewelry or even really expensive artwork, those could be part of our assets as well. I personally am not going to include any of my jewelry. It's not that expensive. But if you do have some really nice jewelry, maybe you have a really expensive wedding ring, you can definitely include the value of that and then any expensive artwork. And then also we want to include anything that we have invested in the stock market. So any stock market investments. Anything that's in our 401k or our Roth IRA or a traditional IRA or a taxable brokerage account, any of those accounts, we want to look at the value of what's in there and put that value under our assets. And then any money that we have sitting in our checking account, we can also add that. And then any money in our savings account as well. And if you happen to have some money under the bed, you can include that amount as well. So just make a list of all of the assets and the value of each of these assets. But we're just looking at anything that we could sell and how much we could sell it for and then totaling that amount up. So for example, let's just say this totals up to $1 million. So we'll just write 1 million. That would be what I have in assets right now. And now we're going to figure out what our liabilities are. That's going to be our next column. So liabilities. And this is everything that we owe. So for example, if we own a home, but we have a mortgage on that, we want to put our home mortgage under our liabilities. And this is where people get confused because they think they shouldn't be including their home in their assets, but it's definitely an asset because you own it, you just don't own it outright. So we're going to subtract out the home mortgage value. And then if we own a car and we have a car loan, we're going to subtract out the car loan. That's going to be under our liabilities as well. And then if we do have a rental property, we're going to subtract out that mortgage. So rental mortgage, whatever's left on that. And then if we do have a loan for jewelry that we have, then we're going to subtract out that. And then any other type of debt that we have, we want to subtract out that debt. For example, if we have credit card debt, we want to know the total amount, and that is going to be money to a friend or a business owner or something like that. Then we're going to put that amount over here as well. So just go through and think of any debts that you have. Maybe you have student loans. That would be another one under liabilities. Any debts or liabilities that you have, you want to list out the value of that certain liability. And then we're going to total that amount. So let's just say our total for liabilities is $500,000. I'm going to keep the numbers real simple today. So to figure out our net worth, we're going to take everything that we own, right? All of our assets, subtract out everything that we owe. That's going to give us our net worth. So If we have $1 million worth of assets and then 500,000 in our liabilities, that's going to give us a total of 500,000 for our net worth. So that would be how you would calculate your net worth. And if you're wondering why is net worth important, it really does give you a gauge on your financial health. Are you continuing to increase your assets? Are these values continuing to go up? And are you continuing to decrease your liabilities? Are these amounts going down so that you can increase your net worth? So if we know what our net worth is, we can continue to increase that. And you'll also know when you become a millionaire. I remember when I hit net worth of $1 million, just over $1 million, I was super excited. It happened right after my 40th birthday. And I don't know, just that feeling of knowing that I'm a millionaire, it was just a big accomplishment to me. And I know $1 million isn't what it used to be, but it still feels like a big milestone. If we are tracking our net worth, we can really gauge where we are financially. And net worth does not equal self-worth. We are all on our own paths, our own journeys, and we just want to improve our own situation, our own net worth. So even if this is negative, that's fine. At least you know where you are. Then you can start to set financial goals and pay off some of these liabilities and increase some of these assets, and then increase your net worth as you go along. And now let's just talk about a few tips on increasing your net worth. One thing that we can really do to increase our net worth is to definitely pay off any high interest credit card debt that we have. If we can pay that off quickly, then we can move that money that we are paying on those balances over to investing. We can start making that money work for us. We can take advantage of compound interest instead of paying that compound interest. And if you need help in doing that, I do have another video about that. I will leave a link above. You can check that out later on. And for me, I've never gone into credit card debt. That's just a policy of my own. I've never paid credit card interest, and I never want to. That's just a goal that I've set for myself. I know other people have different standards about that, but I figured if I could stay out of high interest credit card debt, then the quicker my net worth is going to grow. So if you do have high interest credit card debt, you can just tell yourself, you know what, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm just paying it off. That's not the kind of person that I want to be or the life that I want to live, and be done with it. Just make a plan, pay it off, and continue to progress along your financial journey. The second tip that I want to give you is to decrease your liabilities, right? Any of these liabilities that we have, the sooner we can decrease these, then the more our net worth is going to grow. To give you an example, as I've mentioned before, I had roommates, and I still have a roommate today, but I at one point was living with 3 roommates. And I knew that I could just pay off that mortgage faster. I could just be bringing in more cash flow if I had more roommates. And that's what I decided to do. I wanted to pay off that mortgage as soon as possible. I wanted to invest as much money as possible. And I knew I could do that if I had roommates. So just think about different sacrifices that you are willing to make in order to increase your net worth, in order to reduce these liabilities. I found it's better to make short-term sacrifices for my long-term goals. And then another tip is to invest as soon as possible. We want to be investing in these assets. If we are accumulating assets, then they can pay for our liabilities. I really liked reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad quite a few years ago, but that's exactly what he talks about. He talks about buying assets. He thought he wanted to buy some type of car. I can't remember what it was. But he thought, all right, how can I do that? Well, if I invest in real estate, I can have my real estate pay that car payment, right? So we aren't just taking from our paycheck and paying our liabilities. We're accumulating assets and then paying our liabilities with these assets that we are accumulating. And another tip that I want to share with you is I tried to focus on what I was already good at. And that's not to say I was instantly good at something, but when I started investing in real estate, I got more practice and I became more comfortable with it, and it got easier as I went along. So I wasn't thinking, all right, I'm going to invest in real estate. I'll buy one property, and then I'm going to switch over and trade options. And then I'm going to go to commercial real estate instead of just residential real estate. Right? I focused on one thing. I was doing stock market and real estate, but I was focusing on buying assets. I was focusing on buying long-term buy and hold rental properties. And I continued to do that until I hit financial freedom. By doing that, I was really able to focus in and get better and better at investing in real estate. And same with the stock market. I kept my stock market investments very, very simple, just by investing in a few different individual stocks and then an index fund. I wasn't trying to day trade and trade options, whatever, in the stock market. I kept it very simple, and that's what worked for me. I kept doing what I already knew worked. And then, of course, I talk about this all the time, but we want to keep a long-term perspective, right? The more we can focus on the long term, the better off we're going to be, and the more we're going to increase our net worth. If we are so focused on making a quick win, trying to make cash overnight, that's not going to work for us, and we're just going to get sidetracked. If we can go back to what I talked about earlier, knowing what works and doing what works, continuing to do that, then it works. It will get us to financial freedom. It'll get us to millionaire status. And if you want help in growing your net worth, in particular in the stock market, I have a free masterclass where I go over how I can help you invest in the stock market and create a financial freedom plan for you. If that's something you're interested in, I will leave my link to the free masterclass below in the description, and you can check that out. And then comment below and tell me, have you figured out your net worth? I am curious to know. If you found this video helpful, please hit that like button and share it with someone else who would like to hear this information. And hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and hit the little bell to get notified on when I post new videos. And if you want to see even more awesome content from me, make sure and check out the videos on the side of the screen. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.